And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this very special webinar today. On behalf of Invest India, Startup India, and the Embassy of Brazil here in New Delhi, I welcome you to the second India Brazil FinTech webinar on digital payments towards universalization. I'm Navya Sharma, and I'm representing Startup India.
And I'm Pedro Silva. I'm a career diplomat, and I'm the head of the Science, Technology, and Innovation section of the Brazilian Embassy in New Delhi. We have today a panel of prominent members of the digital payments ecosystem of both Brazil and India, and also both industry and government. They are here together with us to discuss some successful initiatives in this domain, the current scenario, and also some share with us a little bit of their future outlook in this segment. They will also talk about how fintech is in India and Brazil has been navigating through the current COVID-19 pandemic. I will now introduce the panelists. We have from the Brazilian side, Mr. Ângelo Alverne Duarte, Head of Department of Competition and Financial Market Structure from the Brazilian Central Bank. Mr. Duarte is an engineer by training. He graduated in the prestigious Technological Institute of Aeronautics, and he has been with the central bank since 1998. He had lots of positions there, including he's been an economic advisor to the president of the central bank. He has also been a visiting economist at the Bank of International Settlements between 2013 and 2016. Also with us, we have Mr. Eduardo Salvatori, who is the co-founder and COO of Panda Pay. He's also an engineer from the prestigious PUC in Rio de Janeiro and has an MBA in blockchain development. He has in 2017 joined FinChain, an end-to-end blockchain solutions company, where he was responsible for business development and DLT projects. And now he is in commanding with his colleagues this prestigious Panda Pay startup.
Welcome to the Brazilian panelists. On the Indian side, we have two very eminent guests that have agreed to join us for this panel today. First, we have Mr. Dharmendra Jam, who is the Vice President with Paytm. Paytm is a leading fintech company in the country, in India, and arguably the first name that comes to your mind when you talk about digital payments. Mr. Jam leads public policy and government and other strategic matters at Paytm. He has prolific experience and interest in financial services, digital payments, and the fintech sector. We're very happy to have you on board, Dharmendra. Really looking forward to interacting with you. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Naveen Surya. Naveen is the chairman of the FinTech Convergence Council under the Internet and Mobile Association in India, a platform for all stakeholders of the ecosystem to deliberate, integrate, and lead the development of the FinTech sector. He is also a member of NPCI, that is the National Payments Corporation of India's innovation. He's a member of the Innovation Council and a part of the founding committee members at the Payments Council of India. Mr. Naveen has over a decade of experience and has very closely watched the fintech sector develop and come to where it is today. And we really look forward to learning from you about your experience in this sector. Very happy to have you on board, Naveen. Now, before I begin the webinar, I would like to tell the viewers that while we can't interact with you one-on-one, you can still partake actively in the webinar by sending us questions. Now, how can you do that? Just pop in the question in the chats of the respective platforms that you're viewing this on. Our team will pick up the questions and we'll pose it to our panelists at the end of the webinar, where we have an audience Q&A. Look forward to receiving your questions. Now, without further ado, I will sort of get into today's topic, which is digital payments towards universalization. Now, India and Brazil are two economies that have several commonalities. And I think one of the stark ones is the fact that the fintech ecosystem and the fintech sectors have emerged as key strategic sectors in both the countries. Now, there is a multiplicity of factors why that has happened, right? It is because of favorable policy, the fact that the markets are very attractive, and there is a huge growth opportunity for the for technologically driven financial solutions. However, in conclusion, in my opinion, what is the hallmark of the fintech sector in both the economies is the fact that there is a innate need and hunger for disruption and innovation. Both the ecosystems have innovated so much that every 5 years, but if you sort of compare the ecosystems 5 years before and what they are today, they are pretty much unrecognizable. And sort of, going on that tide of innovation, I would like to direct the first question to Angelo, who represents the Brazilian Central Bank. Now, Angelo, we have heard a lot about this new, instant payment system that the Brazilian Central Bank is going to launch in November. Now, this is touted as one of the most disruptive things that will happen in the fintech ecosystem in Brazil. So, I'd like to know from you two things. First, just for the benefit of the non-Brazilian audience, I would request you to explain the PIX system in detail so they can follow the conversation better. And secondly, I would like to understand from you that where do you think PIX as a system plugs in the gap in the existing financial digital payments ecosystem in Brazil?
Okay, thank you for the invitation for the seminar. Let's just to give a little of the context of the PIX and other projects of the central bank. One of the priorities of the present administration of the central bank is to promote innovation and competition in the financial system. We have a very solid financial system. In the past, the central bank main mandate used to be the fight against inflation, but this fight had some unintended consequences, and one of them was the reduction or decrease on the competition in the financial system. You have five very large banks and other hundreds of small banks that are not able to compete with these very large banks. Okay, and some sources of inefficiency. That the PIX, our instant payment system, the open banking project, and sandbox projects are free projects that are in the same line of promoting innovation, efficiency, and competition. Okay, and then talking about the PIX itself, it's an instant payment system that it's very similar to many others like such as in India, in Europe, in Mexico, in China. But of course, there are differences. We have studied all these experiences and try to design a system that's more adapted or more convenient for the Brazilian system, for Brazilian user. Let's talk about the main features of the instant payment, the PIX. One of these is the availability of it. You'll be the only electronic way of payments that it's available every day, every hour. The availability in terms of that the time between you make the payment and the money is deposited on the account of the payee is done and from 6 to 10 seconds. Then any other way of payment, like credit card, debit card, or bank transfers, you gonna take days. In the case of credit card, 30 days to receive the money on the other side. Then you have the availability, as I had, the speed, the 50% of the payments will be finished in 6 seconds, 99% in up to 10 seconds. The other important feature is that it's an open system in the way that not only regulated institutions regulated by the central bank will operate in the system. Of course, if you have a bank transfer, only bank can do. If you talk about credit card operations, all the acquirers, they have to be also authorized by the central bank. But in the peaks, you're gonna have almost 1,000 authorized and non-authorized institutions connected to the peaks. Then you have a broad range of fintechs and traditional institutions in the peaks. Okay. The other I think important feature of the peaks is it's a multi-purpose platform. Okay. It's sometimes people get confused that peaks will only operate in P2P transfers. This is not true. Maybe in the first months it will be the more usual kind of payments, done in the peaks, but you can also use peaks in a P2B payment. Or of course, you're going to, if you pay a store or the restaurant, in a B2B operations as well, and also pay taxes. You are also working to allow people to pay public utilities invoices using Pix as well. It's just something that I can elaborate more. That there are some important restrictions in Brazil in this kind of service, and Pix will fix
Right.
these of the restrictions. Then, just to give a broad view of the Pix, the settlement platform is designed and operated by the central bank, and you also have a database of the transaction accounts also operated by the central bank, and you have all these private institutions linked to the platform, and of course offering the services they can imagine, and all the sort of services to the final users. Thank you.
Right. Right. No, it makes a lot of sense. And I think availability, speed, and the fact that Pix is actually consolidating the entire ecosystem, it's great to know because it'll, of course, optimize and increase the efficiency of how payments are made in Brazil. Moving swiftly to our Indian side, Naveen, I think just sort of building on what Angelo has just mentioned, the fact that, they have introduced something which will, of course, consolidate the entire ecosystem and make digital payments a little more smooth, a little more swift, more user friendly. Now, we also have done multiple certain, many such things in India as well to consolidate the ecosystem. So I think just to create a level playing field for our non-Indian audience, I would request you to firstly just maybe give an overview, a broad overview of the digital payments ecosystem in India, because it's very unique to our country. And then if you could elaborate on the role of the FinTech Convergence Council in the ecosystem.
Sure. Thank you, Navya. So first of all, congratulations, Angelo. I think the service that you're going to launch is likely to be a landmark service, as when we had launched in India, something like IMPS and UPI, it changed the whole game. So if you look at today, let's start from today, right? India, roughly we have about in retail payment, digital part of it is about close to 20%. Just you switch back a decade back, this number was about 2 or 3%, which means you've literally jumped almost close to 6 times. And if you look at last 5 years, I think the speed has been even more. So on an average, if you see, we have grown our country's digital penetration literally by 30 to 40% growth year on year. And that has not happened just overnight. A lot of factors have happened. Structurally, India kind of started regulating digital payment systems in India from 2010 with the result of a bill which got passed called Payment and Settlement Systems Act 2000, somewhere around 2007. Now that laid a new department in the Reserve Bank, which is a central bank in India, called Department of Payment and Settlement Systems Act systems. That department had actually brought about a lot of changes. And while structurally we also have a wholesale payment and a retail payment kind of a system, wholesale payment, if you look at today, more than 90% in terms of value constitute of a wholesale payment. In terms of transaction numbers, they just constitute about less than 5%. If you go to retail payment, it's exact opposite. The number of transaction that are driven through retail payment systems are more than 95%. The value-wise, they are just about 10% to 15%. So it's a stark opposite. And if you look at country of India's size, close to $3 trillion worth of GDP, we look at 1.3 billion plus of people, we kind of churning out cash every fortnightly basis, more than $2 trillion every fortnightly, and that's a number. In fact, it keeps going up, down. Incidentally, over so many years, first time during COVID time, we saw physical cash transaction being lesser than digital, which has been a very kind of a interesting outcome, which has never happened before. Now, the question for us remains that will it remain on the same pace or not? That's for the time to tell. But if you see fundamentally what are the things that have cost in last 4 5 years, the whole credit goes actually to our whole government and regulators initiative around digital India movement. It first started creating access for internet and telecom services to a larger audience. So today, over 50 to 60% audience have smartphones as well as access to the internet. In fact, of those users, more than 50% uses internet through the phones. Similarly, we kind of introduced digital ID for the people who didn't have proper IDs to participate in financial system. So over 90% of Indian population today has a digital ID. Now this got combined by creating a super intelligent system that is just launching called IMPS and UPI, which was actually done in a different model. So instead of RBI doing activities which they were already doing of RTGS, which was a wholesale payment, NEFT, which was both business, retail, as well as wholesale payment, they allowed and created a new innovative entity called National Payment Corporation of India, which was entrusted with role to create a digital payment infrastructure. While they did some generic stuff, they created this innovation called IMPS and UPI both. And that was exactly like you said, first time in the country, 24/7, a real-time amount transfer. Today, I think World Bank calls it fast payment systems, but when we championed it, I think UPI crossed over a billion transactions just last month. And even during COVID period, if you look at compare it with the pre-COVID period of February, actually we crossed that number even in time like this. So a lot of such activities were done. There are additional couple of layers that we are in process of building. Something called data layer, which is account aggregator model. Something called a credit model, which is just got announced called Ocean Framework, which we are in process of working. So I think it's culmination of these different digital API based new age technology layers that is actually enabling the fintech. Very briefly about Payment Council of India and Fintech Convergence Council. Both are industry association, not for profit body. I mean, of course, Paytm is a member. This is done with a single purpose to work with government policymakers closely to figure out role and participation of non-bank entities and collaboration with banks and a licensed entity to create an ecosystem where digital can actually drive the future. So we work very closely with all these business entities who participate. Today, there are more than 300 entities between Payment Council and Fintech Convergence Council representing the entire fintech ecosystem. And that's a role that we play, that we work for the growth. We work on the new policies, new changes, which are constantly evolving. So we've reached here in a very short period of time, 10 year, but last 5 year has been like a super roller coaster ride. But I think it's just the start. We have still miles to go. We still have 80% cash still in the India.
Thank you very much, Naveen. As a Brazilian who has been living in India for the past 3 years, I must say that I have myself experienced the great achievements that India made in the fintech sector. And as a user of all the financial services here in the country, I'm really, I witnessed it, how much benefit it brought to India. And I'm glad to see that Brazilian is embarking in the same direction. And now coming to Eduardo, and Eduardo, I would first kindly ask you to quickly introduce Panda Pay, and as well, if you know, as a participating institution of PIX, I know you've been working hard to to make Panda Pay comply to PIX. So can you share a little bit of what you foresee will be the impact of PIX on your business, and what kind of maybe new products your company can come up with the launch of PIX?
Perfect. First of all, thank you, Pedro, and the embassy. Thank you, Navia and Startup India. It's a pleasure to be here alongside great panelists like Navin, Angelo, and Daminda. So, Panda Pay is a digital wallet with blockchain technology and solutions provider. So, we have our payment system with QR code solutions and bank transfers and bill payments, mobile top ups, vouchers, Uber, Netflix, and such. And we also can provide and offer white labels and those services to entities through APIs, basically. And what we foresee in PIX, with the PIX and all the innovation agenda and the work that the Brazilian Central Bank has been doing, that it's great, we see that competitiveness is the key role, right? And digitalization plays another key role on it, because when you transfer from the physical to the digital, your model is way more scalable and you can differentiate your product and service through technology and innovation, and not putting a bank agency in each corner or a huge sales team on the street, right? So Panapay, being the digital wallet and solutions provider with blockchain, we was hugely impacted on two sides of the initiatives: the traditional financial system, mostly by Pix and instant payments, and being able to connect on this centralized infrastructure of central bank, open, and also on the blockchain that gives you more clarity for the technology. The regulation here is starting to pick up, the regulation on the top economies, let's say, and so it's lowered the risks, right, for a possible investor or even the end user. And for us, we've seen a huge demand in our solution, trying to anticipate what the peaks will be, the instant payments, the QR code. So the central bank kind of made it one type of pattern for QR codes. So each wallet, each bank app connected to Pix can pay and receive from each other without necessarily having a commercial agreement, right? So it enables a wallet like Panda Pay, a startup, to receive and pay from like all the biggest institutions, financial institutions in Brazil. So we can concentrate on differentiating in our product and not trying to consolidate, right? From the start. So competitiveness is a key role on it. And we have seen a great demand on possible commercial partners, new possible investors, also foreign investors, VCs looking to invest in fintech, or because of the regulation and more possibilities. And but one thing I think it's important. One thing that I think is important to mention is that digitalization, it's has not got to the end user yet. On the past 5 years in Brazil, digitalization was about card payments, especially debit card payments. And we saw just a very small reduction on cash payments. And Pix is supposed to be live on November, right? And digitalizations, once we turn the key, right, to Pix, and at a point get 1 billion, I don't know, reais or dollars in transactions, just like the system in India, then we're gonna see, these new ventures and new joint ventures, new products, new possibilities, way more than we think that we're gonna see now. And we would even enlarge the current proportions, right, on payments in Brazil. So we are very optimistic with the future, and yeah, we can do a lot.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. Congratulations for the achievement so far, and I'm really happy to see that with Pix, the competitiveness in the Brazilian market will increase, and I think that will be of, let's say, benefit uh, most importantly to the end consumer, right? So I think we have a good, bright future in front of us. Now, coming to Dharmendra, and I think, of course, for the Indian audience, Paytm doesn't need any introduction. However, for the Brazilian audience, I think that might be of benefit. So I would kindly ask you to quickly introduce Paytm. And also, if you can reveal the secret of how, in such a competitive market, that has been enabled by these solutions and this common infrastructure that Naveen has mentioned, how in this increasingly competitive market, Paytm has managed not only to keep its leadership, but to increase more and more. So, floor is yours, Dharmendra.
Thanks, Petro. And I would like to thank Startup India and Embassy of Brazil and my fellow panelists for sharing their views. Definitely, I would like to talk about the Paytm journey, but before that, I'd like to uh, actually second the thought that Eduardo has mentioned. The interoperability is the concern, which is there in all the markets. So that is the way forward for future. Nobody can survive presently by being proprietary or by being closed. So open loop systems, interoperable system will work globally and will help us to universalize our payment systems. That India is adopting and that Panda Pay has also adopted. That is the way to the universalization of digital payments. Now I'll come to the Paytm part. So Paytm, it's evolving. I would say it's evolving, it's diversifying. The way Paytm started long back with the brand Paytm, which was registered in 2010, and at the time that it started as a mobile recharge company. Like you can do a mobile recharges, cash loading on your wallet, all those things, primitive things, which where the cashless was not the focus even for the government and for the regulator. But that was at that point of time, Paytm was one of the first organization to start with. Then this wave of digital payments started, and even the phase post demonetization. Demonetization was a great push towards the digital payments. For I think for Brazilian audience, that India took a decision to demonetize its existing currency, two of the mainly used currency at that for that phase of like 6 months. Country needed the cashless solutions, some instant pay cashless solutions. That was the point where people started to understand what is scan and pay. Earlier, everybody was aware about the cards. Nobody understood what is scan and pay and what how you can pay using your mobile. So that was the starting point uh, of Indian digital payments ecosystem, where people in that 1 year post demonetization, the digital payments, the way transaction increased, it has not. It was an unprecedented scenario. Otherwise, it could have taken 3 or 4 years more to reach at this level where we are right now. Okay. Now, I'd like to highlight what Naveen has already said, that from the regulatory perspective, Indian regulator actually also helped uh, accelerating the overall digital payment system by setting up specialized differentiated banks, payments bank, which are focusing only on payments. So that was an innovative move in itself. And it was not a traditional banks for which who can actually lend, and where you can have high deposits. Here the deposits, you payments bank can have only deposits up to 1 lakh, a unique differentiated kind of banks to push payments and digital payments. Okay. And that was a very important point in Indian regulatory landscape, wherein Paytm also got itself registered as Paytm Payments Bank. Earlier, we were just a wallet company. Then we were because we had wide reach at the merchant level, at the customer level. Then uh, because of this regulatory regime, we also were licensed as bank. Now, as a bank, we can offer cards, we can offer other services like IMPS and other Aadhaar enabled payment systems. So this is not only Paytm's journey. This is actually regulator, government's push. Government set up separately a mission, a department in Ministry of Electronics and IT called as DigiDhan Mission, which was just focused on increasing the digital payments transaction year on year. So first year it grew, after demonetization it grew like 100%. Since then it is increasing approximately 70% digital transactions year on year. Okay, so there is a focused push, focused tracking by government, and enabled environment by the regulator. That has led to such a open system like UPI, wallets, cards. Now there is a one thing which is a landmark in Indian digital payment system, ecosystem, is the FASTag, the vehicle FASTags, where the cash payments at toll India's all 480 plus toll plazas has become digital. It's a mandatory to pay digitally using your FASTag. Otherwise, you have to pay extra amount. So government took a bold decisions to digitize. And now about the Paytm journey, Paytm earlier it was a wallet, then we diversified ourselves to a bank. Now Paytm is much more, it's more like a financial services company, rather than just a payments company. We are focusing on many other initiatives, including Mall. Paytm Mall is one of the major entity that Paytm is working on. Paytm Money, a wealth management platform, which is India's. It has the largest number of customers on it, new investors investing customers on it. So Paytm's mantra or the key to success is diversification, adoption to the market, so that our risks are actually minimized, and gradually our consolidated customer base is increasing. We are not just a UPI player or a wallet player or just a bank. We are second largest ticketing platform, entertainment ticketing platform, ticket booking, railway ticket, bus tickets. So this is the way we have grown in past, and we are surviving despite being the competition, the level of competition from international players who are entering in the financial services market. Yep.
Right. No, Dharmendra, it's actually, I think the story of Paytm is extremely inspiring from where it started and where it has come now. I think I'll sort of steer the conversation back to Pix. We've heard from the Indian side that there is an echoing thought that, the regulatory push really helped take fintech to where it is today, right? And I think Brazil has, in that regard, taken a step in the right direction. So, Angelo, from you, we would like to understand that you have sort of just gotten an overview of the Indian experience of taking fintech to the next level and accelerating the adoption of digital payments. So, what do you think? That what can the Brazilian central bank seek to emulate from India's experience to make Pix even more lucrative and even more, a convenient platform for the users to use?
As I mentioned before, you have many similarities between India and Brazil. We have very large countries, lots of people, a large population, and also many people living far from the big cities. Then this poses some the same challenges to both countries in terms of large portion of the population not unbanked population, large unbanked population, the difficulties to provide financial services to poor people, to people living in small cities. Then you have lots of similarities. And in our case, we acknowledge that you are, let's say, in some way behind India in terms of the introduction of new technologies or development of fintechs. And of course, in this regard, we try to learn from the experience from India, and not from India, from other countries. Not only the good achievements and but also the problems that other jurisdictions faced when trying to introduce instant payments, and other new digitalized products in the financial sector. Then, of course, India, China, and experience were more important for the design of peaks, and not only for the peaks, for the open banking and other projects of the central bank. But I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about some challenges that you had in Brazil in terms of financial inclusion. And these problems you are becoming more acute in the times of pandemic. Okay, the pandemic. You have for 60% of the Brazilian population, the main mean of payment is cash. And for, let's say, 30 to 40%, the only mean of payments is cash. That you have challenges to transform these people into banked persons, but you also have some opportunities. There's something that you managed to universalize in Brazil. It's the cell phone. You have more than one cell phone per capita in Brazil. Then one of our main objective is to transform the cell phone into the bank branch of the future. You are completely sure that it's impossible to put a physical bank branch in every small city. In fact, the number of physical branches are decreasing steeply in Brazil since 10 years ago. Then you work to transform the cell phone in a bank, in the full sense. In payments, it's one of these opportunities to allow people to make all sorts of payments using the cell phone. Okay, the Pix comes in to help this challenge, but also in terms of payments. Why the other ways digitalized payments are not so universalized as we wish? In the case of credit cards and debit cards, for the other electronic payments, we see some source of inefficiencies, and the costs are very high in Brazil. You are talking about 2.5% in a credit card transactions and 1.5% in a debit card transactions. And also in Brazil, in the case of a credit card transaction, the merchant receive the resources, the payment in 30 days. I think it's quite different from developed countries. I don't know how this is different in India, but it's very, the prices, the fees are very high in the credit card. They used to be much higher. If you turn to 5 years ago, to be 2 or 3 times higher. And due to some projects of the central bank to promote efficiency, to promote competition, these prices are increasing. But credit card, debit card, by design, they have some difficulties to be more universalized. That's it's the Pix try to fix in the payment system. I think one important point to finish my intervention is that our objective of the Pix is not to substitute for the credit card and debit card transactions, just to be one more product, one more way to be a competitor. Of course, there are also advantages on the credit card schemes, and there are some commodity conveniences that the credit card offer to the firms, to the households, that the Pix will not offer, at least in the first years. Okay, that I think that India and Brazil, they share the same challenges and also the same opportunities in the financial and the financial universalization, in the payment industry. But not only this, because I also work in the Ministry of Finance before, and they have a lot of similarities in terms of the tax system. That maybe one of suggestion for Pedro Silva is to do another live, not with me, of course, tackling this point. Okay.
No, absolutely, Angelo. I think when you mentioned, just the first problem that you mentioned that Brazil faced of financial inclusion, that is something India has struggled with a lot as well. I think we have the second largest unbanked population in the world. So that is something that we're really trying to bridge the gap using digital innovation, digital payments, and actually trying to, sort of set a benchmark there that we can bring more and more people into the financial services ecosystem. Now, Naveen, moving to you, right? Now, India has done a lot of things right. We got the right kind of regulatory backing. We got the right kind of interventions, and that were like they were well timed, right? Then there were two of these events. Firstly, the pandemic, which we'll get into later on, but an unintended consequence, as you mentioned, of demonetization was acceleration of innovation and adoption, right? What do you think is the next new thing, next trend in the digital payments ecosystem in India? What do you think is next for us? Because I don't want because it sort of seems that we have done everything, but I'm
Sure.
sure there are more, things that we can tap into.
Sure. So just to connect the dot with Angelo first, so demography-wise, India has been similar to Brazil. One big difference between payment systems, India, we were never a card-led society. I mean, I won't say comment on a form factor, good or bad, but probably we were lagging. If I look at early 5 years, we were trying to replicate a lot of things even from Brazil, including as early as gyro system, which became a Bharat bill payment system. I think for some reason we realized that we have to probably leapfrog the technologies, the systems, and let the consumer choose. The challenges remain, however, like you rightly said in the inclusion. So net in India, the digital natives, as you call, of the entire population, we have less than 10% population who have access to the complete digital payment system. While on the other hand, we believe, and this is what we have been advocating even from association, even with the Ratan Vatal committee report, which I was a member, that I think the payment is the basic need of every consumer in the country. So actually, that should be the horse, not the cart. Today, you put bank as a horse, and you're actually trying to ride off the bank. And the cost of banking system, the way you do it, is very different versus just doing a light touch digital payment. I think money has to be dealt with very differently. Similarly, linked to that, I think because banking is being regulated in a certain way, and because it has been thought of being led by banks, your payment also actually gets burdened with the same regulation, which is not same. The payment should be treated more like a commerce and a commercial transaction, the way you treat cash. So coming to the innovation basis, that what's the future we're looking like? I think the future has to be, of course, less cash, if not cashless, as India talks about it. Obviously, has to be touchless, which means contactless. Wherever there's a card or a phone, I think can you do it in a certain technology where you don't have to touch? Voice based, I think you can speak. Has to be AI powered, has to be kind of machine learning, smart screen wherever if you're present. So all these things that you will see now coming forward within India, what we can expect, I think, to promote a lot of these things, while we already have a big success story like NPCI, the RBI has already decided to further open up the sector to create more similar entities under a new license regime, which is going to come soon, called new umbrella entities, which means you will be allowed to set up complete new innovative systems for the entire ecosystem. And they are not restricting it to digital payment, but going to right from ATMs to remittances, both domestic, international. So every area of digital payments. And I think since you said that the inclusion is a bigger problem, the next 200 million consumers, they're not homogeneous group as your first 150 million. It's quite a diverse population. The ticket sizes are much smaller. So you really need to innovate a lot. And I think we have to think hard as an entrepreneur how we do it. And again, India does not have liberty of those high margins available in Brazil. I think here MDR is already regulated on debit card, which is zero. Though we don't second it, we believe it should be market driven. That's another extreme. On the commercial side, credit card still is at 1.5% on an average. Of course, there are premium cards which go as high as 2.1%. And settlements are all T+1 for the merchants, which is they receive the money. In fact, there are a lot of interesting business models which are allowed by the financial services company to even settle money real time. So these innovations are already happening and probably equally relevant for Brazil. But a lot more are coming: blockchain, crypto, central bank issued digital currencies. Each of these are actually lined up, stacked up, and I think you will see all of them in next 5 years.
Great, Naveen. Thank you very much. And you mentioned the topic of blockchain, and want to tie this up with financial access. And this actually, this would be my question to Eduardo. I think your Panda Pay was precisely created based on blockchain, and I think one of the main objectives by using this technology is also to help to democratize access to financial products. So, how say successful have you been in that in pursuing this objective, and how has been your, let's say, experience in by using blockchain?
Perfect, Pedro. So it's an amazing question, but a complicated answer, because the centralized infrastructure called PIX and the other payment system in Brazil, they only deal with fiat, right? So when we're talking about blockchain, and I hope so, 5 years from now, we are talking about central bank digital currencies, just like Naveen pointed out. But right now we're talking about fiat basically. So it would always need an intermediary to do the fiat token and token fiat conversion. So once we are thinking of financial inclusion and trying to bring these people on board with blockchain products, it's hard to do it with, let's say, reais. We could definitely do a stable token solution, that it's what basically Panda Pay does. We register the transaction blockchains, and we are creating products that we can offer that on the user interface to the user. He's dealing with reais basically, but it's blockchain behind it. But again, because of the fiat token transaction, at some point we need to have a bank or be plugged to one of these uh, infrastructure layers from the central bank, and we were dealing with reais. So it still is a huge challenge to how can we do the second layer solution benefit and potentialize the first layer, because we could definitely be dealing only with crypto or only with stable tokens, but we still would be creating slots and silos and putting these people on these silos still, and they would be managing and dealing with among themselves. Of course, it's better than not dealing at all, but we're still targeting something way much greater, way much bigger, that we definitely can build something that is actually open and it's safe and scalable, and it doesn't want to deal only with one type of currency. Let's say we could definitely work with foreigner tokens like the USDC, a stable token of the dollar, and stable token from reais, another social coins. Here in Brazil, we already had that type of solutions that were something that was like reais but was used on favelas or another type of community. So I think blockchain could definitely help on this matter on financial inclusion, and it's already doing it all over the world with crypto. But it's still, when we're talking about the Brazilian market and Brazilian payment infrastructure, there's a lot to do, just because we are always dealing with crypto. But one thing that I would love and I need to mention is on the last plenary of PIX, right? The reunion with all the members, Roberto Campos Neto, the president of Brazilian Central Bank, said that all the innovation agenda of the central bank, like PIX, open banking, the fintech sandbox, crypto regulation, culminates on a central bank digital currency. And we're already seeing this movement on China and Sweden and Japan and Germany piloting on central bank digital currencies. And for me, it's amazing. It makes me very optimistic, and it's a statement that we never imagine from the last board of the Brazilian Central Bank. So it's clearly an innovation agenda, and hopefully it will end up on blockchain systems, central bank digital currency for reais, atomic swaps between Latin America and all over currencies. And that's what we envision here, and we're gonna fight for it for sure.
Great, Eduardo. I think we have a kind of a mixture of, let's say, short-term goals that, let's say, are being brought in with these new regulations on open banking, on PICs, and also the sandbox. But as you just listed, I think we have many other kind of points where we can improve. And I think we have lots of items for a really long-term agenda as well. Um, we are really running quick. The time is running quite quick. I will just for Damendra, I want to first ask him, since we touched upon the point on financial inclusion. I think maybe 2 cents here of what role Paytm, and definitely Paytm has played a very great role in India in terms of financial inclusion. So access to electronic payment systems. So if you can just comment quickly on that, and a bit about the future of Paytm. I just read interesting interview with your boss, the founder of Paytm, and he mentioned that maybe the company will be venturing including into stock brokerage, right? So it's yet another service that Paytm is incorporating into its platform. So if you can share with us a little bit about the future of Paytm.
Sure. Thanks, Pedro. So first question that you have asked, that what Paytm's role has been and how it will evolve or contribute towards the financial inclusion uh, or how it will accelerate the financial rate of financial inclusion in this country. So I'll take you back to the country's journey, the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, where Honorable Prime Minister actually launched world's largest financial inclusion campaign in India to onboard every household in payments ecosystem or banking ecosystem. It's like the target was the 100% of the Indian household should be covered with a bank account, and the the mission was extremely successful. Through this mission, India could open approximately 34 crore bank accounts across country. So that was one of the country's contribution towards financial inclusion. Now, how Paytm has contributed to that journey, and in addition, so financial inclusion, it has steps. First step is that you create an access, for everybody to bank or to transact. Second step is that you create services in the banking, so that, like, you have a bank account but you're not transacting, you just go to bank and take out cash from bank. So you have to create services so that people start using that bank account, like for lending purposes, like for insurance, not only for cash withdrawal, okay, like for receiving direct benefit or social transfers from government benefit schemes. Okay, so that was the second step where government worked towards. Okay, now Paytm side, I'll tell you how Paytm landscape is. We are uh, we are covering approximately 34 crore users, active users across country. Okay, and approximately 1.6 crore merchants across India. Okay, now that is, if you can see the overall internet users as per the TRI reports, it is in the range of 55 to 56 crore. Okay, so we are covering out of that or a smartphone user
Amanda,
base.
just for the benefit of the Brazilian, when you say crore, is
Okay,
actually you have to multiply
10
by
million.
10 million. So it's
So 1 crore is
50,
10 million.
550 million, right? Yes, exactly.
Yes. So I'll just repeat a few numbers. So we have 340 million user base, and 16 million merchants onboarded on Paytm platform, and it is growing. And the challenge is not only onboarding users or registering users, it's like keeping them active and retaining those users to transact not only for payments but all those services. Okay, so that is our contribution to have that large population of people who have bank account to transact on various digital services. That is a next level of financial inclusion apart from banking. Of course, we also have a Paytm Payments Bank, which is working particularly in tier 3 and below cities. Tier 3 means you have population approximately less than 1 lakh or zero point 0.1 million, 1/10 of million population, reaching out to the smaller towns. So our focus is to reach out to the smaller towns, because in the present context, the financial services, the banking services are available primarily in the urban cities. Now, the next phase of this financial inclusion would be that even RBI and NABARD, they are focusing on the smaller towns. So now Paytm is also contributing to the financial inclusion by going to the smaller towns, enabling merchants to, with QR codes and the smart POS. What is this is interesting that we have developed low value point of sale device, which we had installed approximately 200,000 devices in last couple of years. We are the like sixth largest POS issuers in this country. So we are not just into QR codes. Now we are evolving to the POS, so that the card users can also leverage. Now, this is about the first question that was asked, that how Paytm is contributing. Now, about the complex ecosystem that has been developed, and the way things are progressing, Paytm is evolving, and as the next step, Paytm is venturing into new landscapes, particularly in the lending aspect, because the micro lending is one business where people are more interested in, particularly for our merchants, because we have such a large user base. Now we can offer them variety of services. One of the service which is uh, lending, insurance, and we have another platform, Paytm Money, through which we offer them multiple wealth management, including the stock broking license that we have recently got. So we are augmenting various services to bring services, digital services, to to the Paytm app, and so that people can the 340 million users can actually leverage those services in a so that's our responsibility, and our and also I'd like to answer one of the point in the which was question which was asked to Naveen, that what is the next level innovation in India we should look at. So in next future, so I think India should look at, which is not there in India, is one nation one card, which is that every transit payment should be from one card, which is not there. Every city, every metro has its own card. So India is working towards that. That is one thing that India must look at, that we for 100 smart cities, we don't want 100 cards to be there. So there should be one card for every transit payments across India. So that is one thing that India should look at, which we should learn from other countries. I think I have answered the question. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think. Well, thank you so much for that, Dharmendra. That it's very it's extremely interesting to see how Paytm has worked towards financial inclusion, and as you rightly said, again we see that we see resonance with the thought of the fact that regulators push certain things and they actually have a good snowball effect for the fintech sector, especially in India. That's what our experience has been. So thank you for that. I think we have an audience question that we would actually want to take right now for Naveen and Angelo. So this is around cryptocurrencies. So the audience member has asked, Gautam, can you throw the question up on the screen? or I can read it out as well. So Naveen and Angelo, the question is that if we talk about digital payments, what is the scope of cryptocurrency in India? And I think similarly, what is the scope of cryptocurrency in Brazil? I know Eduardo sort of covered it in the middle, but we would want to hear from you both as well.
Can I go first?
Absolutely, go
So
ahead,
I
Naveen.
think we need to look at cryptocurrency into three different buckets. So one, is it a private, first in our two categories, private or a government issued? By the way, Eduardo, all central government issued currencies are also going to be fiat. They're going to be the same. I mean, unless Angelo has a different answer. Yeah. So there are three buckets. First, you have to see this as a working as a currency, and currency and money are different, right? Currency as a legal tender, which means it's a crime if you don't accept it in a simpler way, or it has to be get accepted by everyone. So that's the first, as a currency, as a store of value, as acceptance of payment. Now all these regulations are with central bank. So that's something which is getting examined as we speak by the RBI and the Finance Ministry. In fact, there is a bill which is attempting to empower RBI to do that part in a one way. The second activity that exists is actually the trading into cryptocurrencies, which was temporarily indirectly was halted by RBI, which actually was then set aside by the Supreme Court recently, where they said that till the time there is a blanket ban on this business activity, it cannot be stopped, which means the banks have to still participate. Earlier, central bank had given a caution to banks not to participate with entities who are facilitating or were the private exchanges for the private crypto exchanges. So that's the second activity. So currently working, but as I said, the final verdict on that is still pending, because there is also a parallel bill which says that bill seeks to actually ban all private cryptocurrency trading in India. That's not passed yet. So for now, that's working. And lastly, it is about raising funds, or let's say issuing these tokens as a securities to kind of raise money for various companies. So there's a scope for all of three. The key overhang is the final regulatory position that the government of India takes, basis which the RBI and others will act. But fundamentally, the central bank issued digital currency is definitely going to be a reality, and blockchain DLT is definitely going to be a reality. The rest of it is currently in a gray area. The scope is immense.
Okay, just to give the context from the perspective of the Central Bank of Brazil, of course, regulators and central banks used to be more conservative in terms of these innovations. Presently, the Central Bank of Brazil does not acknowledge cryptocurrencies, crypto assets as financial assets. They are not under the supervision or regulation of the central bank. In fact, they say that the Congress has to pass a law if the Congress understands that the central bank should regulate crypto assets. The present mandate do not reach this kind of assets. But of course, internally, we are observing the experiences. You are studying deeply how these cryptocurrencies, how these are traded, and also I think one point of concern, not only by the Central Bank of Brazil, but also by all jurisdictions and regulators, financial regulators, is the misuse of cryptocurrencies by criminals. Of course, Brazil complies with all international agreements in terms of money laundering and other types of crimes. Then, if in the future the central bank understands to regulate and oversee the cryptocurrency trading, you have to be assured that all these procedures to counter the misuse of cryptocurrencies should be introduced in our regulation. Then you have you are analyzing, you are studying, but you are very cautious on this because of the misuse of cryptocurrencies.
Perfect, Angelo. Thank you very much. We unfortunately ran out of time, but I think maybe we can squeeze in one last question, both for Eduardo and Armendra. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, I think, I mean, certainly the amount of digital transactions has increased, and but not only that, I think we have seen new, let's say, modes of behavior within the consumers, right? So I just wanted to quickly ask you how this kind of this situation in which we had a very tight lockdown here in India, which is opening up in I mean, it's slowly opening up. In Brazil, we have that was adopted, different regions adopted different strategies. So just wanted to know a little bit about the impact that this, let's say, pandemic has had on your specific businesses. We can maybe start with Eduardo.
Perfect. So I would like to talk about two aspects of it from the user standpoint, the end user, right? So, as I mentioned, the digitalization was in Brazil was related with credit and card payments. So, since I don't know, late 2018, the beginning of 2019, we started to see QR codes available to pay for payments, right? We already had QR codes for any reasons, but for payments, it started back then. And when you see, it was a centralized solution for each wallet, so it was a very bad experience, a very poor user experience, because one wallet had its own QR code and you would have to download this app to pay and cash in and pay on this QR code. So what Pix is trying to change is this whole dynamics, right? Interoperability, and I can pay and receive which one QR code. So that's amazing. But with COVID-19, we saw the migration of even a small business, because big retailers already had a digital venture, let's say an e-commerce or a platform they could build with a payment processor, and basically they needed to rethink, how do I get to my customers? So of course you had these aggregators like restaurants and convenience stores that aggregate these services and offer to the end user so he can pay from home remotely, right? But still you're starting to see the migration for the base of the pyramid, and it actually drives a lot of the people that were not there because they didn't have a nice gadget, a nice smartphone, or a data plane. You, here in Brazil we have 70% of internet penetration, more than one smartphone per inhabitant, but 70% penetration is not that much. It's raising each year, but it's not 90% like developed countries or more. So this whole pandemic status faster things up, because not only on the top of the pyramid is doing and it's offering cash back and it's showing the QR code, pay with QR code, but you start to see the middle and the base of the whole entrepreneur pyramid, let's say, moving towards that direction too, and it drives demand of their public, that is their target audience, that is the base of pyramid. So the whole, let's say, the whole pyramid starts to get familiar with this situation. And what we offer in Panda Pay with white labels is the opportunity to the small and medium-sized company, even the autonomous entrepreneur, to have its own payment app. And with Pix, it will be possible. So let's imagine I have a small retailer shop, 4 stores in my city. Why not I have my own wallet, my own app, and I can receive, I can manage, and I can designate funds on my centralized solution. I have power of conversion. My customer base is usually is used to buying from me, so it would download my app, and I don't would be a hostage to 5 bank accounts from the 5 major banks that are charging me 10 reais from one bank transfer. It's absurd. It's definitely absurd. And omni-channel experience, data behaviors for analytics for your customers. So it's definitely a not turning back moment for digital payments and QR codes in Brazil, and the COVID-19 fast turns things up. Actually, I had a teleremote appointment with my doctor, and he sent me a e-receipt, like to buy drug medicine, right? To buy medicine, and I just opened the SMS, like the text message on the drugstore, and it was a QR code. So the guy just scanned it here, take your medicine, and go. And I didn't need to have that receipt on paper signed by the doctor. So that's what we're talking about, right? It's 2020. Please, I don't need to go to my doctor to get one receipt, and the same for payments. The same for payments.
Well, Pedro, just one final answer, a final phrase that similar to Eduardo, we observed that we moved 2 years in 2 months in terms of payment industry. The pandemic, the plans that some companies were some projects that some companies were planning to 2021, 2022 were anticipated to the second quarter of 2000 of this year and the third quarter of this year. Then you move 2 or 3 years in 3 months. Just to give an example, it's a public held bank managed to create digital accounts to 40 million people in 2 months. So it's not the best design
Right.
recognized by was the best possible in 2 months. Okay, those are final words. Thank you.
So I'd like to add just to the
Dharmender?
Eduardo's point. Yeah, I'd like to add to the Eduardo's point. Yes, India is also facing the similar pattern. Like we are also seeing. See, there are overall, if you talk about the overall impact of COVID on digital payments, so overall the transactions have increased. Now there are some use cases for which transactions have decreased, like ticket booking, fastags. It has reduced because people are traveling lesser. They're not traveling through their cars. But there are some use cases where transactions have increased phenomenally, like bill payments. The new users are coming, and the bill payments use case is increasing phenomenally. Okay. The merchant payments, food delivery payments, medicine payments. So if in India, if you go to a medical shop or an essential services shop, people have a distance, a line from which you can make payments, and there is a QR code. So they always prefer that people are paying using QR code rather than putting cash. So because cash currencies are transferred, so people are intelligent enough, so they are preferring QR codes, at least in the urban cities, or even the cards. So that is the pattern. And if you talk about particularly about Paytm, so we have seen approximately doubling of the transactions, and its new users are also coming, and per user number of transactions have increased phenomenally. Okay, so this is a pattern. And now I'll talk about the specific India's largest used payments mode, UPI. So the way transaction actually happened, like in Feb month, it was like 1.3 billion transactions were happening. In March, it decreased to 1.2 billion. In April, it further decreased to 9.9 billion. But in May, it again increased 1.2. In June, it is 1.33. So there was a dip in the month of April, but now it has again reached ever highest number of UPI transactions in this country. So the we are back with the January or February level. So that dip is over now. So that is the pattern in India as an impact of COVID.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Dharmender, and I would like to thank all the panelists for their very insightful interventions and all the information they have shared. with us. This webinar certainly has again contributed for a very fruitful exchange of experience and points of view from two markets that are very similar and have similar challenges, and have certainly a lot of interesting solutions to share. Actually, the final question would be whether there would be what kind of let's say business opportunities would there be for Indian startups in Brazil, Indian fintechs in Brazil and Brazilian fintechs in India, but we will have to leave that for another webinar. Certainly there are many topics to discuss. So again, I would like to thank you all for your participation. And we will, this is, let's say, a series of fintech webinars between India and Brazil. We will also soon be announcing the next topic. Again, thank you so much. And Navia, please, if you can, your final words.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to our panelists. I think this was a very exciting conversation. We learned a lot about our shared experiences, and I think there's a lot more to explore, as Pedro said, a host of topics we can go on and on about. But to the viewers, definitely tune in for the next webinars. They'll again be on certain pertinent trends in the Brazilian and in the Indian markets. And to our panelists, thank you so much. Your insights were very, very valuable to our users. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, and I think that speaks for the quality of the conversation. And thank you so much. Look forward to speaking with you again.
So thank you all and goodbye. Thank you.